Hey guys, Cathy Rankin here with BrickHouse.tv on your All Access Pass, and I am here with Geoff Tate, one of the premier vocalists in rock and roll and heavy metal, and my favorite. So, Geoff, I want to talk to you. You're supporting the 30-year anniversary of Operation Mindcrime, and we were talking already a little bit about the album and the themes. I got to tell you, when I was 18, I remember hearing the album for the first time, and I was at a party that I probably shouldn't have been at, and somebody put that album on, and the whole place went nuts. And all I remember is that opening riff to Revolution Calling, and I just had chills. Everything else in the room, it seems like, disappeared. And I know, obviously, I'm not the only one who has that feeling when they listen to that album. And you don't listen to one song. You have to listen to the whole thing front to back. So when you guys were making the album, was that the goal? Because concept albums, a lot of bands have done them, but you don't know if people are going to get it or not. So what were you guys feeling as you were actually developing the material?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, of course. I only have my perspective, but I was really into it. I've been wanting to experiment with the conceptual format for quite a while, actually since the beginning of the band. And if you look at our first two albums, you can see that we were experimenting a lot with themes. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to convince Chris, my writing partner at the time, that we should go for a full-blown story. We just didn't have a story at the time. And so when we finally had the story and it all started coming together, I think everybody in the band got on board and really contributed a lot of great playing and a lot of good energy towards the record, Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of no holds barred. We kind of went into it with the idea of no limits, that we were going to worry how to play it later live, that we didn't want to put any restrictions on ourselves by saying, I can't write this part because how would we ever do that? We just went for it, really. And we had Michael Kamen come in and work with us on some of the orchestration and some of the classical themed music that's an accompaniment, like on Sweet Sister Mary, for example. And that was fantastic because that really, his contributions really helped, I think, fill out that song especially. For sure. But really, I guess to answer your question, what I was feeling was excitement and just being engulfed in the story and trying to make it as realistic as possible. There's a lot of time and effort and focus spent on the segues between the songs and sound effects and how the songs flow together, mm-hmm. that maybe if you weren't a musician, you wouldn't notice that, but you'd feel it,
mm-hmm. Yep.
But, like the size of the room that the nurse is walking through, we had figured that out, what the dimensions were and how many steps it would take to get from the operating table where Nikki was to the door.
Interesting. And I think those are the details people wouldn't think about when they're hearing the songs.
Yeah, so little things like that.
So were you surprised by the reaction? You think about the weight of it, the impact that album has had. It's on every top 100 list out there. I was researching. Rolling Stone, Kerrang, all these magazines that do top 100 heavy mm-hmm. metal albums, that album is on all of them and in high positions. So does that surprise you that so many people got it? Yeah, because they didn't at first.
It was an album that we put out, and I think I can speak for the band in saying that everyone in the band was very pleased with it and very excited and proud of it. We put it out and nothing. It was just sort of like our other albums, sold a small amount of records, and we went on tour and supported it, and it sold a little bit more, and it finally came down to we'd spent almost a year on the road supporting the album, and our management said, time to make another record, boys. Wow. You've exhausted all the touring opportunities we have for you right now, so you got any ideas for a new album? So we were toying around with new album ideas, and we got a call from Abby Conowitz in New York City, who ran MTV Music, and he said, I want you guys to make a video for this album. I love this album. I'm very into it. MTV is behind you. Do what you need to do. So we scraped up every bit of money we could get, and we made a series of videos for the album. Put the first one out, which was Eyes of a Stranger.
Love that song.
In conjunction with the single, Eyes of a Stranger. And in 2 weeks, we sold 500,000 albums.
Crazy.
Just boom.
That's crazy.
2 more weeks, it went platinum. And it really illustrated the power of television at the time, and having, we had a good album, and we had some catchy songs, that they could release as singles, and then we had MTV playing it every day, so it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. And then I Don't Believe in Love, I believe, is the one song that got nominated for a Grammy. And
I don't remember.
yeah, I think it was Grammy nominated. That album was so technically precise, like the production and the sound on that album. And you guys were digitally recording that album at a time when it was very new. So you guys have always kind of been on the forefront of trying things.
It was actually one of the first digital albums released. Yeah.
Right.
I think one of 5, yeah.
And so with that in mind, were there any things behind the scenes that went on in the production, any challenges that people wouldn't realize?
Yes.
Like, were you arguing over what should go on there and what shouldn't? If you look back, was there anything you would have done different, or you wish you had or hadn't done?
Well, what you hear is not the original album. It was remastered because we finished the album, one of the first albums made in digital, and we turned it into the record company, and they were like covering their ears. Oh, what is this? It was so hard and so...
It is. It's so out front.
Yeah. I mean, it's really... Well, you should have heard the first version. It was really hard to listen to.
I turned my knob all the way up.
But that was exciting for us because that's what we were trying to make, is this really hard album that was just brutal.
Yeah.
Cruel was the word that we coined listening to it. But they thought, well, at this time, you got to remember that the record company and audiences weren't used to hearing digital sound yet.
Right.
We'd grown up with analog, so everything was softer and nicer and warm, and now this was like, boom, really like a punch to the head.
It was. Yeah. That's what I was explaining. Like when I first heard it, that is the feeling you got, but for me in a good way. In a good way.
So they made us remaster it, and I'm glad they did. Although I wish I had a copy of the first mastering, because I would have liked to.
That would be interesting, to kind of see,
hear it
see
now, 30 years later.
Do you have a favorite track on the album?
No. In fact, playing the album in its entirety on this tour has really been a real treat for me, because I don't normally play one of my albums all the way through, although I'd like to do that more. This is really special and unique, and I'm really trying to savor every moment and every performance and be grateful for it, because it doesn't happen all the time. And I don't know if I'm going to perform it again. Maybe if I'm still able to, the 40-year anniversary, I don't know.
Wow.
I hope so, maybe. I don't know. But
that's why everybody should get out to this show, because it is going to be incredible. And I know a lot of people like me have been waiting to hear the whole thing like you're doing. So it's a treat for the fans, for sure.
Yeah, and I can see that. It's a treat for me to perform it. And I love it, although it's very difficult to do it night after night. And not so much the singing. I can
imagine.
Not so much the singing, but putting yourself in this kind of frame of mind for the character. I'm not a guy that's like Nikki at all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm not like that. I'm a lot more gregarious and happier.
Interesting.
But he is really, really just an intense character that is very angry at the world, and it shows in everything he does, his movements, his gestures, and all that. And keeping that up for the amount of time every night performing it's tough. It's like an actor.
It having to do a role.
It's very much like that. And my band, luckily, I told them when we started the tour, I go, I'll probably get kind of intense, and I won't be fun to be around.
Right.
But just remember that after the show, it'll all be good again. It'll all be normal.
You kind of let it all go.
I'll let it go, So they tell me sometimes, okay, Nikki, you're getting kind of intense, man.
Yeah. And it actually brings up an interesting point that you said that, because being that you have to do that, do you think people in some ways have misperceived you because of the intensity of a lot of your music?
Yeah.
Because I know me, having listened to your albums for years and sitting here and talking to you even before we started rolling, it is unexpected. You're not... Your personality is different than I would have expected, because you do come across so intense in your music. And some of the themes are so
they're
serious.
Adult themes,
Very serious.
And not in a sexual way, but adult thinking themes, serious
deep
stuff.
Thinking, deep thinking, critical thinking. one of my favorite lines is from Revolution Calling, and it's about the media. I used to trust the media to tell me the truth, tell us the truth. Now I see the payoffs everywhere I look. Who do you trust when everyone's a crook? That line to me sticks out because I remember at the time when this album came out, what was going on in the world at that time. Now you see what's going on in the world today. Does it strike you that those exact words are playing out so accurately, almost like your album predicted things that were going to happen? What do you think about that? Does that ever hit you?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of an armchair anthropologist. Although I never went to school to study it, I'm fascinated by human endeavor, human development, the human story. Really.
Right.
And I read books, and I think one of the things about Mindcrime, we touched about this earlier, that appeals to people and resonates with them is that it does mirror society. It mirrors life. It deals with classic themes of power and no power, love and hate, and manipulation, and those themes are prevalent in life, and they don't change. It keeps happening over and over and over again. Although the names change, the players change, but what they do is very similar, age after age after age, for who knows how far back.
Sure.
And it's just part of human development. Maybe someday we'll get to this utopian future where we're all enlightened and we all don't experience jealousy. Jealousy is this thing of the past that nobody even knows about anymore. Maybe we won't have that. Maybe we'll develop past that, and I hope so. That would be great. But until then, it just keeps happening. And jealousy is another word for hate, and people are jealous all the time. And especially nowadays with social media, we're just slammed in the face with all the things we're not, all the things we don't have, and it makes us mad and
comparing
angry.
Ourselves
we're
all the time.
We're constantly comparing ourselves, and are we good enough? Are we smart enough? Are we pretty enough? Are we, it goes on and on and on. And it drives people crazy. It drives them to extremes, and that's what we see every day in the news now.
Interesting. Let's talk about some other stuff because it's
some lighter things.
Well, not some lighter things.
Sorry.
I was actually going to talk to you about American Soldier, and I'll tell you why. I have a personal attachment to our veterans, specifically Marines, and I've been doing veteran charity for the past 13 years through my own things. And your father was a veteran, and you did your whole American Soldier tour. Your daughter was on that tour with you and would come out and sing, and we were talking about how she would hold your hand because she was nervous. I saw that tour. That had some really heavy themes, and I'm just wondering what you did a lot of research on that album. I thought it was a very powerful album. You did a lot of research, and you talked to a lot of veterans, and you got their stories. What was the greatest thing you learned in that experience?
Well, so many things, really. It started with my dad, and talking to him about his experiences in Korea and Vietnam, and not knowing the background of what he experienced until I was an adult, because he never talked about it.
Right.
But then at some point he decided it was time, and there I was with my phone, hit record, and recorded the whole thing. And it really set me off on this course of trying to interview as many soldiers as I could, because I wanted to see if there was a continuity to it all. Was there a theme? Was there similar experiences that these veterans experienced? Because that plays into my thesis of our theory of human evolution and how we keep replaying the same story over again. Anyway, I found that there were a number of stories that were fascinating, but so many of them are about people that are thrust into these amazing situations where they are tested at a soul level, at a personality level, on who they are. Because you're tested and put in these situations where you have to do something, you have to react, and the way people react, there's a commonality in there that's very evident and very interesting. And you can take a veteran from World War II, and you can talk to another veteran who was from a more recent situation, like say Afghanistan, and their stories are almost identical. Again, the names are different and the technology is different, but the actual basis of what they're experiencing is the same thing.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating study of the human mind. Okay, so we will talk about some lighter things. Wine.
Please.
Wine.
Now
You're
you're
a wine
talking.
enthusiast. We should have been drinking wine in this interview. You got into it when you were 14,
Yeah.
I read. What interests a 14-year-old in wine making?
Well, I didn't really have an interest in winemaking. I had an interest in getting a merit badge because I was a Boy Scout.
Okay. Okay.
And you could get a merit badge
clarifies
if you
it.
developed a food product or a beverage.
Oh, interesting.
And I just happened to be staying at my grandmother's house for the summer, and she was gone traveling, and I had to mow her lawn, and she had thousands of dandelions growing in her yard. And so I'm looking through her library trying to find a good book to read, and I see How to Make Wine from Dandelions. That's the name of the book. I picked it. I went,
Very
wow,
random.
I could make dandelion wine, and I could get a merit badge.
Yes. Did you get the merit badge?
I got the merit badge, yeah.
Was the wine good or was it hideous?
Well, I was a kid, and
Yeah.
I made something, and I, gave it to my parents and their friends, and like all parents do, oh, that's a really nice poo picture, So I don't know if it was really good or not, but it didn't make any of them throw up. So that's a good thing.
That's always a good thing. But
Yeah.
now you're making real wine.
Yes,
So tell
real
us about
wine.
Insania. Is
Insania.
it Insania? Okay. And tell us about that. What is it that you love about the whole process of winemaking?
Well, when I grow up, I want to be a farmer.
That's
love
what
farming.
my dad was the same way.
Oh,
He
yeah?
was in the corporate world for many, many decades, and he retired onto a ranch, and he works the land.
I love the land. I love working on the land. I love being in the vineyard. I love developing the grapes and watching them grow and testing out different varietals and seeing what does good in the climate. I like all that. I like the crush, the harvest. I especially like the drinking of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the reward of the whole
it
thing.
really is, especially when it's good and it's memorable.
Yeah.
I like all aspects of it, and if and when I can retire at some point, that's what I'd like to do with my time is just spend it in the vineyard.
I was going to ask you about that. And so you see yourself retiring at some point?
Yeah, I think so. I there's a point where you got to kind of hang up your rock and roll shoes, and
Yeah.
Only come out on occasion, but yeah.
Well, I hope it's not yet because
Well,
you
I've
still
got-
sound amazing.
I've got 19 albums, and I really want to do at least 20, so
Yeah.
I think I
Good.
have one more album in me, maybe two.
Good, good. We're glad to hear that. Okay, I'll wrap this up because I know you have to get ready for your show. But one last
I have to
question.
put my pants on.
Well, you can put your pants on. It's not what you think. I'll ask you one lighter question. What is something about Geoff Tate that no one would expect? Like, what makes you belly laugh? Just get silly and
Really?
not be intense. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Tell me the truth.
I think it's funny when people fall down. You know those videos you can watch on YouTube where people run into things? And
Do you sit and watch them?
I'm addicted to that stuff.
I love it. That's the image we're going to leave you guys with. Geoff, it's been so great talking to you. Thank you so much. This has actually made a dream of mine come true.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
So, and I cannot wait to see the show tonight.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Brick house.
Stephen Piercy couldn't get